Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happens every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Danielle. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
We have an important show update. Today's episode is a normal Women's Sports Weekly episode. However, we are going on a little trip. And by little trip, I mean a big trip. So we won't be giving weekly updates the next couple episodes, but we will be back at the end of October to tell you all about what we've been up to. But don't worry, we're not going to leave you hanging.
We are adding some interviews in the coming weeks, and you don't want to miss them. So the next few episodes will be focused on our interviewees. We have some great people to highlight from the women's sports community, and we really enjoyed interviewing them, and we hope you love to hear about it too.
It's going to be awesome.
It is. I was so excited to learn about the people we interviewed. I just really hope everyone enjoys learning what we learned.
And the people we interviewed, I wanted to become their friends. They're all so cool. I admire them for a lot of different reasons. And so it was really cool, one, to have the opportunity to interview them, and then to be like, this was really awesome. Let's be friends.
Yes, for sure. I felt the same way.
How was your weekend?
Great. We started off on Friday night getting to watch playoff basketball, WNBA. Oh, and we were at a bar called Stoney's in Denver. They have 2 locations. What do you know? We got the sound on. We had the games on multiple TVs. We had to ask 3 times to get the sound on.
Yep.
Even though we weren't competing with any men's sports, but we got there eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had a great group of people. We met some new people, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had one too many drinks and felt like crap the next day. It was great.
I fortunately did not have one too many drinks because I'm at the point in my I'm at the point in my training plan that my marathon training is consuming me.
Yep. It is that time of marathon training.
This is actually just a podcast where I give updates now on my marathon training.
People want to hear how you're an athlete.
Maybe. On Saturday, I had to run 20 miles, so I chose not to drink. But you know what? Non-alcoholic beers have come a long way.
They have. That one you had on Friday night was good.
It was great. I don't have to worry about having a hangover the next day, so that's always positive. Still had fun. I will say bar food before running 20 miles is not the answer.
Yeah. If I ran 20 miles the following day, I would have pooped my pants on the side of the road. And if you know anything about my previous marathon training, you know that happened a lot.
I do. Luckily, just took me a little while to get out of the house in the morning.
You were able to contain it and not leave the house with it. You were feeling light on that run.
I don't regret it. Those nachos were nachos are my favorite food, but I love how the guy was like, do you want a single serving or a whole serving? We were like, a whole serving.
And it came out and we were like, whoa, this is really big. We crushed it.
And I got a turkey club on top of that.
Yeah. You got to eat. If you're running 20 miles, you got to eat.
It was great. I'm actually pleased. I talked about last weekend how I had a dumpster fire of a half.
Oh, yeah.
And I somehow felt so much better this weekend on my 20 miler. So that's where running is so mental. I was physically drained last week, and just mentally I was like, oh my God, I'm screwed for this marathon. And then I ran 20 this past weekend. Felt so much better. So that was really exciting. I've talked about how important run clubs are. Got through 8 of those miles with some great group of girls from a run club I go to. So that was awesome.
I also joined you for a run club this past week.
Oh my gosh, I forgot. Friday morning. That's how we started.
Yeah. And I liked it.
You did.
What was it called?
Shout out to Coffee Run Club Denver.
If you don't like running, this is a great group because they were running at a slower pace.
A social pace, as they say.
Everyone who went was really cool and
yes.
nice. And
all
it didn't
women.
feel too pretentious, which sometimes I feel like run clubs feel a little pretentious.
Yeah, for sure. And we got to drink coffee before work on Friday with that run club. To our listeners who don't know us that well and don't know us when Carolyn and I trained for New York City Marathon together last year, maybe you could DM us a few times to try to get Carolyn back to training for a marathon, because I keep telling her the content would be gold. Because...
I mean, if you want poop stories and just a lot of anger, yeah, maybe I need to run another marathon.
We would post on Instagram after all our runs that we trained together, and people would just DM us like crying, laughing, and I need this back in my life.
Yeah. I wonder if we would get more listeners or less listeners the more I talk about how bad my stomach was training for a marathon.
We got to work on that. And then Sunday, another great set of games.
Mm-hmm.
And
we'll talk about that more.
We will. And then I had 2 of my own football games, and man, I have such an appreciation for football players. I play quarterback and it is hard, and I am not very good, and I'm trying to learn and get better, but mentally it's wearing down on me.
You're smiling and laughing right now, but I think it might be to just keep away the tears.
Honestly, just have such an appreciation for people who can play that position because it is not easy.
You're new to this.
Yeah.
This is your first time really playing. We've played in 2019, but that was a dumpster fire.
We met friends that way, or we met people going into that league, and we definitely bonded
more with our friends. We also met people that we've never seen again. We were just picking up random guys. Whoever our friend was dating at the time would just bring whoever she was dating to a game because we were always short players.
And I was like, after that, I was like, I can't lose sleep over rec football. I'm never playing again. And here I am again.
Losing sleep.
I do. Sunday nights, I come home and all I do is think about all the bad throws I threw.
I hope you can give yourself some grace in your first year.
Yeah.
And like we were saying last week, can you allow yourself to be mediocre and a learner, a beginner at something?
For sure. I'm just happy, knock on wood. I tweaked my ankle a few times the past couple of weeks, but it was good. And honestly,
that's good.
Yeah, didn't hurt at all.
You didn't feel it?
No.
Cool.
But anyways, enough about me. Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into the highlight reel for the week. Quick shout out to the Toronto Scepters. This is the Professional Women's Hockey League. They have already sold out their season tickets for the second PWHL season in a row. As a reminder, the PWHL is only in year 2. They even moved their games to a bigger venue, the Coca-Cola Coliseum. It's a venue that's over 3 times larger than their previous one.
Wow.
So they sold out last year. Yes. So now they're going to have over 8,000 people at every home game this season.
That is incredible. And I love that all the PWHL teams now have names versus the Boston team, the New York team. Now we get to actually root for team names and mascots. I'm pumped about that.
It's going to be really great. So shout out to Toronto doing some great work getting those season tickets sold. Everyone watches women's sports. It's very simple.
Yes.
What do you have for us?
Want to talk about NCAA volleyball, and I will dive into number 7 Texas versus number 18 Florida.
This is now an SEC matchup.
Yes.
I'm such an old person. It's just going to continue to rattle my brain that Texas is in the SEC, but continue.
So the reason I want to shout out this game is Texas Longhorns are the 2-time defending national champs. They are currently ranked number 7. They swept number 18, the Florida Gators, on Sunday on the road with over 9,000 people in the stands. 9,000 people. Volleyball is so fun to watch. There were so many good volleys back and forth, and even though they swept, they kept the games close. So swept means they won the first 3 games out of 5. Mm-hmm. And they won 25-23, 25-18, and then the last score was the lowest, 25-14. I think at that point, Texas just really gained momentum after winning the first 2 and just was like, we're done here. The things the Longhorns dominated at was blocks in this game. They had a total of 13 blocks at the net, and they were led by Mariana Singletary, a redshirt sophomore, who led with a career high of 10 blocks.
Wow.
It was so fun listening to her after the game. She went up to the broadcasters to have an interview after, and her dream is to be a broadcaster after she's done playing. And they were just chatting with her. The one broadcaster was like, "Oh, I heard you want to be a broadcaster." Then he was like, "What can we do better?"
Okay. People ask the dumbest things in interviews.
I'm like, she was on the court. She's not listening to broadcast the game, right?
He was like, what can we as broadcasters do better?
She thought about it and she's like, have more fun.
And he almost got a little offended. And I was like, people ask the dumbest questions to these athletes after the game.
I know.
You have so many things you can talk to this woman about. And instead you're making it about yourself, asking her what you could have done better when she didn't even listen to the broadcast.
He was like, well, you obviously don't know us if you think we need to have more fun. I was like, okay, bud, hold the phone.
She doesn't.
Here.
She's doing the hard thing and actually playing the game.
Yeah, but she was cute, and she was just like, oh, well, I guess I'll go back and watch the game and send you some notes. She was just like, okay. I just thought it was funny. Like,
I would be so mad. I know why athletes sometimes give media such a toot, because the questions are either so dumb or so repetitive. And I remember my dad, when I was in high school, and sometimes we would have the small newspapers come and ask us questions after the game, and he always said, be the most boring. Be the most boring you can be. Don't try to make it interesting, which is so not the way things operate now in like this social media.
Not with NIL and everything. You need to be interesting.
Yes, but if you don't want media on you, the best way to do it is to be boring.
Yeah, it's so true. Other than Mariana Singletary, senior Madison Skinner led the team with 12 kills. And then junior Devin Kahawai.
Here we go.
Oh, I'm sorry, Devin. And junior Devin Kahahawai finished with 8 kills and 6 blocks. For the Gators, sophomore Kennedy Carter.
Hold on. Kennedy Carter plays volleyball too?
Who's Kennedy Carter?
Danielle. C.H. Kennedy Carter for the Chicago Sky. What were you just about to say? The president?
Like Carter? Isn't that? You gotta cut that.
Hold on. You're thinking about President Carter right now?
I didn't know what you were talking about.
Kennedy Carter.
On Chicago Sky.
It was
my
joke.
head was not going there.
Wow. I try to make one joke.
I'm sorry.
Right over here.
It went right over my head.
It's okay.
Are you surprised?
Continue.
Sophomore Kennedy Carter led with 12 kills, and fifth year Ellie McKissick and redshirt sophomore Alexis Stuckey both ended with 8 digs. Next match for the Longhorns is at number 13 Kentucky on October 13th at 12 p.m. Eastern on ESPN.
Very cool to see over 9,000 people for Florida when they're ranked 18.
Yeah. And then we were watching Georgetown versus Louisville, and that stadium looked packed too. And there were a bunch of guy swimmers in the stands. Of course, the camera started panning to them in their Speedos, which I just thought was hilarious.
Yes. And I do like that volleyball is a low barrier to entry and understanding it. You just try to get the ball over the net. If it hits the ground, it's a point for the other team. It's pretty easy to understand.
Sorry for all the volleyball players out there that Carolyn made. That just sounds so simple.
I mean, for a viewer, it's simple to understand, not to actually play. The athletic ability needed to play it well is insane. The reason why I think volleyball can get so many people and why people get so excited about it is because you can watch it and get the game pretty quickly.
Yes. I just wanted to make sure people knew you're not just out here saying, oh volleyball, I'll just go out there today and just get it over the net.
My vertical is a solid 3/4 of an inch.
Did I ever tell you the story that this is so embarrassing, speaking of vertical? We were doing a jump test in college basketball and I jumped and someone made a joke that they could barely fit a phone book under. And I still remember that because it was so rude.
That is rude.
It was the strength coach.
Traumatizing.
Carry on.
All right, let's get into NCAA women's soccer. Number 4, Wake Forest beat number 6, Florida State 4-1 last Thursday. This was an ACC matchup. And although Wake Forest is number 4 and they beat number 6, Florida State, we have to remember that Florida State has been unbeaten. They were on a 32-match unbeaten streak until this game. In the 2023 season, Florida State won all but one match, and that one match was a draw. They went on to win their 4th straight ACC tournament title and the national championship. They came into this year, they had a couple ties, and they fell to number 4 Wake Forest last Thursday. With all of these conference realignments that happened, the ACC has half of the country's top 10 teams. Coming into the game, Florida State had only allowed 3 goals all season and had not given up 4 goals to an opponent since they lost to Notre Dame back in 2022.
Go Irish.
Go 2022 version of Notre Dame beating Florida State. So Wake Forest came in and they have been unranked for a while, but then they beat then ranked number 2 Virginia 3-0 and then had a 1-0 win over then number 1 Stanford. So they've shot up in the rankings. They came out against Florida State. Again, Florida State has not lost in 32 matches, and they dominated the first half. They had a goal from Nikayla Small and one from Emily Morris in the first half, and they outshot Florida State 11-4 in the first half. So they were up 2-0. But then we get into the second half, and 15 seconds into the second half, Florida State's Cameron Simmons scores to make it 2-1. So I was like, okay, they're coming back.
Yep.
They are not going to get beaten. But Wake Forest responded when Kaya Hanks scored in the 56th minute to make it 3-1. They sealed the deal with another goal from Nikayla Small. So she had 2 goals in this game in the 65th minute, and it was her senior night, which was really cool.
Wow.
To make it 4-1.
And 4-1 in soccer is a beatdown.
It is a beatdown, a proper beatdown.
Yeah, because soccer goals are so hard to come by. 4-1 just makes me think back to high school. If we lost by that much, I was not in a good place.
Yeah, for sure. Poor goalies.
Yes.
The ACC is wild. So as a reminder, the ACC stands for the Atlantic Coast Conference, and they now have teams like California, Southern Methodist University, which is out of Texas, and Stanford.
I need to wrap my head around this because I'm not there yet. I'm not fully there yet.
I'm going to be talking about this forever. I'm going to sound like my dad and just be like, the conferences didn't used to be like this. My dad also had a thing where he would make me and my best friend went to Arizona State, I went to South Carolina. He would quiz us on the teams that were in our conferences, and we had to know them.
Wow.
So this past Sunday, Florida State played, at the time, unranked Virginia Tech, and they lost again. 3-2. So a little bit of a rough patch for Florida State. This was crazy. Virginia Tech scored all 3 of their goals in the last 15 minutes of the game.
That is absurd. What this makes me think of is Florida State goes all these games without losing.
A whole season.
And this is what I was worried about with South Carolina last year in basketball, but they won. They won the championship. They went 38-0. But sometimes you have to lose to learn how to lose and how to bounce back from a loss. So now Florida State lost. They haven't lost in so long. They have women on the team who have never lost since they've been there.
Yeah.
And now it's, oh my God, what do we do?
Yeah.
So while it sucks now, it might help them later down the season of, okay, we need to learn how to bounce back from this and carry on.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
But now you're getting me anxious that the Gamecocks are going to have a rough
Well, my
start.
point was going into March Madness, I was like, can they hold on? It's so hard. It's just like with the Aces. Can you three-peat? It's so hard to keep winning. It's just the reality of it.
Very true. Also, college basketball is right around the corner.
Oh my God, we keep talking about it.
I am so excited that it's coming back.
Again.
It really serves us well that college basketball ends. The WNBA starts like 2 weeks later. WNBA will end. College basketball will start 2 weeks later.
It's amazing.
And around we go.
Yes. And it's even more so like this year because of the Olympic break. Like it carried out the season. Because usually the WNBA season ends a little earlier. But this year it's like Christmas over and over again.
Really? Well, with all that, let's get into the WNBA semifinals.
Both of these series have been so fun to watch. I am sad that the Aces are out. I really wanted them to push it to Game 5. I was reading earlier that no team has ever gone down 2-0 and pushed it to Game 5. And I was like, if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be the Aces. They just could never get the lead in this game.
Why don't we back up a little bit?
Yeah.
This past Friday, New York played the Las Vegas Aces. New York had won the first 2 games, and now they were in Vegas, and Vegas won. They beat them 95-81, kept their chances alive. At one point in the game on Friday, they were up as much as 25 points. This was their first time beating the Liberty all
year
season.
So they went 0-5 to the Liberty going into Friday night's game.
Yeah. What the Aces did really well was they held down Sabrina Ionescu.
Yes.
They didn't let her get hot. Poor girl couldn't score.
Struggle City.
They thought they had a chance, like you said, to be the first team to come back from losing 2 games, but the Liberty are way too strong. Last Sunday, New York beat the Aces 76-62 to move on to the WNBA Finals for the second year in a row and crushed the dreams for a three-peat for the Aces to become a dynasty.
Going into this game, I was like, okay, Friday, they held their own. They played really well. Them being at home, I was like, they're on home court again. Aces fans are great. They love their team. They show up. And I was like, they're going to do it. They're going to push it to Game 5. They started off with a lead, 2-0, and literally could not get the lead back the entire game. They would get it to 2 or 1 points and foul shots weren't falling. Layups were missed. It was just a struggle.
And I thought the momentum was going to shift at the end of the third because Jackie Young made this incredible buzzer beater shot that would have put them up by 1.
Yep.
And it didn't count. She didn't get it off in time.
The
place went wild. And you said that could be a momentum shift no matter what.
Yep.
But they just couldn't get it.
The fact that she got that shot up one and was able to make it from behind the half court line, I was blown away. It was still so cool to see, even though it didn't count. I almost flew off the couch. I was hitting the couch so excited. I was like, I'm wearing my Notre Dame shirt for Jackie Young, and she just did that. And it didn't count. And that just like, it deflated me.
And she's been having a rough playoffs.
Yeah. And it just deflated me. So I can't imagine how it felt for them. Yes, they made it. It was exciting, but it was like, once again, we just can't take the score. And then they struggled in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. On the Liberty, Sabrina Ionescu bounced back from game 3 and scored 22 points. Went off.
The annoying thing was hand and face just could not miss from the 3. Yeah. The announcer said something about, what do you think they need to do to stop Ionescu? And I was like, I don't know, guard her. And I was like, just kidding. They literally have hands in her face and she can't miss. It was just one of those things where things were falling for them.
Brianna Stewart had 19 points and 14 rebounds. And then rookie Leonie Fibich had 11 points and 4 assists and just played great defense. She was everywhere.
Yes.
Leonie Fibich is a rookie, and she was named to the 2024 WNBA All-Rookie team.
Well
She's
deserved.
proving it here. Mm-hmm. She's having a great playoffs. Asia Wilson for the Aces in the defeat ended with 19 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 blocks.
Her blocks were incredible. That got me fired up throughout the game. And just want to take a moment to talk about Asia because MVP, I feel like she just deserves a moment here to talk about her season and the historic season that she had. During the regular season, she averaged 26.9 points per game, which is the most in WNBA history for a regular season. And just as a reminder, like there's been a lot of talk of all these records are being broken and the seasons are extended, right? Like the regular season has more games in it than used to. But when you look at average, it doesn't matter how many games you play. She is consistently averaging 26.9 points a game. And you can't take that away. 32 games, 36 games, it doesn't matter. That's her average points per game.
I push back on that so much. If you say that we're extending games, there's more chance that you can get hurt. There's more chance that you can really stink it up. So when people get so mad, they're like, that there should be an asterisk because it's less games. It's like, no, the record's the record. They beat the record. And great, we have an opportunity to honor people historically who may have had that record before, but I don't think it takes away anything from
no, and that's not what I'm saying, but I just want to make it very known. It doesn't matter here. She also averaged 11.9 rebounds per game. So she averaged consistently a double-double and 2.6 blocks per game. Her defense, she just comes out of nowhere and does such a good job.
What would you rather do? Block a shot or hit a three-pointer?
You know me.
Shoot first, last, and always.
Shooters got to shoot.
A block feels so good.
It does.
It feels like you've disrespected their mother. And I don't know if there's anything better when you're trying to beat someone.
It's very true. I think I've told you this before, but my dad always said there's no D in Brogan.
There's
not. I don't know if I had many blocks back in my day. But it is great.
You weren't even on that side of the floor. You were just posted up at the 3-point line waiting.
I'm like, I'll be here. Just kidding. But she finished the season this past weekend with 1,149 points. And that's inclusive of regular season and playoffs. And as a reminder, she's the first player in WNBA history to score 1,000 points during the regular season. She earned MVP for the 3rd time in 7 seasons. So she won it in 2020, 2022, and 2024.
She must like even numbers.
Yeah. She's working her butt off all the time. What I love about Asia is she just shows up each day and does what she has to do. She puts in the work. She's a good leader and good teammate because the way her teammates talk about her, it is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And they are just there to support her no matter what. And that doesn't happen. That does not always happen for a team to unselfishly just want to support this one person with so much of themselves. And the Aces show that over and over again.
It's very rare for teammates to talk badly about one another. They usually won't unless things are really bad, and it's just a PR nightmare if that happens. However, you can gather how a team feels about certain players based on how much they talk about them.
Yeah, it's they're staying silent, but these women made it a point to not.
Anyone who interacts with Asia Wilson only has amazing things to say about her.
Yeah. So I'm sad. I did want to see them three-peat.
Yeah, you say you don't have a team, but the whole time we were watching the game on Sunday,
I kept saying we.
You were pretending you were out there. You were like, we're not going to win this. We're not. And I'm like, I didn't know we were Aces fans. I know.
An Aces fan. Do I always tell you though? I claim I don't have a team, but whenever I think about all the players I like, most of the players I like are on the Aces. So I don't know why. I think after Candace Parker and Elena Deladon left the league, I love those. I just am finding my way. And Candace Parker was on the Aces for a year, but she was hurt. So I didn't feel like she was there. Like I saw her win championships at Chicago and then she went to Aces. And it's more so that. I have to see how things shake out, I keep saying. I don't know.
I also think there's something really beautiful in picking a team and then getting to know that team. So not just the stars on the team. I love watching teams and then getting to know the players who are more role players, who come in and are the hard workers and maybe more silent, and they just do amazing things. And you only see that when you pick a team that you're going to ride for. So that's why I'm like, we need to find a team so that we can find those players like Alicia Clark on the Aces. Yeah. They come in, they make a difference, and you can ride for them rather than just the big names.
I know. I think part of me was like, well, they just won 2 championships in a row. I don't want to be a bandwagon fan.
Felt the same way.
And honestly, I really think that's what was holding me back. And I'm like, screw that. I'm just going to pick a team. I will reveal this with full force. I'm going to get gear.
Okay, great.
And we need to pick the same team.
Well,
because I can't be battling with you. I want to be super fans with you.
Okay. I think the Aces are most geographically close to Denver. I think it's between them and Phoenix. I don't know which one's closer.
I don't want to be a Phoenix fan.
I do like Natasha Cloud.
I know.
Diana Taurasi, Kalia Copper.
I know.
There's a lot on there, but they're not as good. So now you're turning into a bandwagon fan.
Okay,
again.
I could talk about this all day, but all I know is one thing I'm going to miss this year is the Aces post-championship celebration.
Oh.
There's nothing better, and we're not going to get that.
And we're definitely not going to get it if the Minnesota Lynx win.
No. I've been saying that's who I think is going to go all the way. So now I need to root for them because that's my prediction.
And no disrespect to the Lynx. Who's going to be holding on to that JBL speaker?
No one.
Yeah.
No one on the Liberty either.
I know. Who's going to be inviting Usher to come to the parade?
Honestly, if the Sun win, it's going to be them. Minnesota's kind of quiet. New York is quiet. I'm like, I don't feel like a pull. I want to be besties with you like I do with the Aces. And we're just missing that.
Yeah. Out of the 3 teams left, I want to party with the Connecticut
Sun.
Yeah.
I agree. But because my prediction is Lynx, I need to stick with it.
Okay.
And we shall see.
Back to the New York Liberty. They're advancing to the finals.
Yes.
And they will have home court advantage in the finals. And everyone knows that Barclays Center is the place to play.
It
and
is.
Also going to be really difficult for whoever they play against.
Ellie is going to be doing backflips.
Ellie is going to be
Center.
rabid. We need extra security for Ellie. I am worried that she is going to be on the other team's bench twerking up a storm.
She is.
She's going to twerk someone's face off.
I have a coworker who has season tickets for the Liberty because she lives in New York. And she was like, I'm not kidding. In the beginning of the season, Ellie's braid was like not very long and not very exciting. She's like, now her braid's like at the top of her head and it's 40 feet long. I am here for it and I follow Ellie. I know.
Her hair gets longer and longer as the season
and more
goes on.
Wild. Like she's whipping it around.
I love it. This will be the 6th trip for the New York Liberty to the finals. Their 6th trip and they have not won a championship yet. Can they do it?
This is wild because when Brianna Stewart was at UConn, all she did was win championships. I feel like she will lose her mind if they don't.
I want to see Brianna Stewart get drunk. That's what I want to see. I want to see her inviting Fat Joe.
It's not going to happen.
Ja Rule, 50 Cent, every New Yorker.
It's not going to happen.
To the parade. Let's talk about the Connecticut Sun versus the Minnesota Lynx. On Friday, it was 1-1. Connecticut Sun won the first game. Minnesota Lynx won the second. In the game on Friday, Minnesota Lynx made a statement with a 90-81 road win over the Connecticut Sun. This was the Lynx' second victory in the series after losing the first game to the Sun. Then we get to Game 4. The Lynx are leading 2-1. This happened this past Sunday, and the Connecticut Sun won 92-82.
Looking at these scores, it's so weird. In my head, I felt like they were proper beatdowns. They definitely ended closer, but for some reason, I feel like watching the games, you feel the momentum of one team and you're just like, they're gonna win this. Whether it's close or not, like there's been these weird momentum shifts with these two teams.
I also feel as we're watching, when the Minnesota Lynx win, I'm like, they're going to win the whole thing. And then when the Connecticut Sun win, I'm like, they're going to win the whole thing. When they're playing, they're just playing so well, and the other team is either not playing very well or they're able to contain them. So it's very hard for me to be like, who's going to win this? Because I'm like, whoever has the momentum on the day is who's going to win this.
Yep, I agree. There's some beef between these teams. I need to know the beef between Kayla McBride and Marina Mabry.
Can someone tell us?
If anyone knows, because they both went to Notre Dame. So you would think, being from the same college, you have that relationship. Yeah, at the least. But they got into a tiff earlier in the series.
And Marina Mabry fights with everyone.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay,
but it
fine.
felt like, I don't know, it feels like Kayla is not vibing with her right now.
No, she's not. Courtney Williams after the game was like, yeah, me and Marina are fine. We didn't hear that from Kayla.
No.
And in this game this past Sunday, Kayla McBride fouled Marina Mabry hard.
It was a on the ball play.
Yeah.
She went for the steal. It was not
flagrant
at all. Means. But they both collided and they both went down. And usually when that happens, you usually look at the player and you're like, you good? But
nope.
Kayla McBride just got up and walked right away.
Yeah, we're sensing something here.
And I talk about my love for Notre Dame. So this is something that I noticed. And I'm like, what happened?
What do you think happened?
Maybe she's just sick of Marina's bullshit. I don't know. She's like, I'm sick of you trash talking everyone.
It's so funny to hear the announcers talk about Marina Mabry because they're like, she's feisty. She's from New Jersey. And they just use the fact that she's from New Jersey as her excuse of why she is the way that she is. And it's kind of true. She is from New Jersey and she just talks trash.
And sometimes I'm afraid to tell people I'm from New Jersey for that reason. I'm like, I don't want them to automatically assume I'm a certain type of way.
Oh no, I want everyone to assume that.
That's the difference between us.
Alyssa Thomas for the Connecticut Sun had 18 points, 11 assists, and 8 rebounds.
She's been playing so well.
And Ty Harris for the Sun looks so good. She came back from an ankle injury in game 1 of the playoffs versus the Fever and scored 20 points in just 30 minutes, top scorer for the Sun. Also, she went to South Carolina.
Another player to recognize during this game, and she made herself known and was hitting shots in clutch places, was DeWanna Bonner. Ended the game with 18 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. She just hit shots in annoying places where you're like, damn, that one was a dagger.
Yeah, she does put tiny nails in coffins. The highlight of the game was the Connecticut Sun's defense. They were so dominant. Stifling.
Oh my gosh. The announcer literally said the Connecticut Sun's defense is just stifling on Minnesota. And maybe 2 minutes later, you're like, wow, their defense is stifling. I literally looked at you and was like, thought you were making a joke. And I looked at you and you weren't really reacting. I was like, the announcer just said that.
I just subconsciously absorb everything for the podcast into my head. Nafisa Collier for the Lynx finished with 29 points and 13 rebounds.
Ooh, she started off so hot. I thought that was going to be it. I was like, they're going to win this game. She started off on fire.
And Natisha Heidemann, who also started off so hot and was blowing past people, had 16 points.
She also hit a half-court shot at the buzzer, and it counted.
And it did count. This forces a game 5 that's happening when we release on Tuesday. And that brings us right into what we are looking forward to this week. What do you have for us, Dee?
Game 5 of the semifinals between the Lynx and the Sun is today, October 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern at Minnesota. The winner of this playoff match will face New York Liberty in the finals, and the first game of that series is Thursday, October 10th. What are you looking forward to this week, Carolyn?
In the NWSL, New Jersey, New York, Gotham plays Chicago Red Stars on Saturday, October 12th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Paramount Plus. Gotham is ranked number 3 right now in the standings. Chicago Red Stars is ranked number 6. Gotham put on a goal-scoring show this past week against Bay FC. They scored 5 goals on them. However, we know who's in the net for the Chicago Red Stars.
Alyssa Brickwall Nair.
That's right. Can Gotham get past that brick wall that Alyssa Nair is and get some additional points on the board for the Bats? for the baddies. Did you see them go to the White House? Gotham went to the
Yes.
White House, and Midge Purse told President Biden that he could call them the baddies.
Wow. I love that nickname.
It's so good. And it's October, little bats, baddies, love it.
Speaking of October, before we wrap up, I have a lot of family members who have birthdays in October. So shout out to my sister Carly, happy birthday. Shout out to my dad, happy birthday. Shout out to my poppy, happy birthday. And my little cousin Caitlin, happy birthday. It's
Wow.
insane.
What was happening that we have so many Brogans?
But especially to my dad and Carly, they listen. So hope you hear this. Hope you both had great birthdays.
Yes.
Love you.
Both huge supporters of the pod.
Yes.
Give us lots of feedback and positive affirmations. So happy birthday. We love you both.
Yes.
That is it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch women's sports, rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Share the podcast with your friends. Keep sending us topics you want us to cover on Instagram at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Thanks for joining us.
And don't forget to listen to our interviews.
It's
See
going
you
to be
soon.
so good. We'll see you soon.
Bye.